Easy now, folks. I have upgraded the overhead aquaponics sump, and that was largely due to one reason. See if you can tell the difference between this and now this. That's right, it is much quieter, and that is down to one thing really. The pump that I showed you in the original video was a 500 litre per hour pump, and when I went to put the whole thing together, I picked up the wrong one. I picked up the one that is 1,000 litres per hour, which obviously transports a lot more water through it and therefore is much noisier. I've changed those back out, and that means because it is a little bit less noisy, I don't need to keep the lid on the sump now. Although I am going to use parts of it just to retain some of the evaporation and keep the water in the tank, but let's have a look anyway. So I'm going to use a few of these plant baskets that you buy plants in sometimes and slot them into the sump, each side of my filter media. We tend to hoard things as fish keepers, don't we? And it feels like a small victory when something just comes in very useful like that. And then I'm just going to use those to hold my plants upright. It also means they're not stuck through that polycarbonate sheet and risked damaging them, which could have possibly happened on my previous version. It's also going to look a lot better, I think. We'll see at the end here. I'm not keen on wasting things if they can be reused if possible, so I'm just going to cut lengths out of the lid that I made originally. Going to do my best to cut around the holes that I made in that one, so it's got some going to have a nicer finish to it. I might end up with a couple of them, but let's see where it goes. I'm going to try and use pieces of this to cover as much of the sump as I possibly can, and only leave open areas where the plants are sticking up out of it. I've actually got more space to put plants in now, so I've got more space than plants at the moment, so I'm going to stick these peace lilies at the back because they are quite tall, and that leaves me a few spots in the front for other plants. Don't know what I'm going to put in them yet, but I've got nothing but options now, haven't I? Again, I've got a nice piece of polycarbonate that I cut. It's going to slot straight in there, only covering the filter media, the sponge and the polishing pad underneath, and leaving loads of space for the plants to grow out. I couldn't actually avoid the holes in this length that I had, but that's okay because I can put cuttings in here. This is a piece of lucky bamboo that I'm going to try and propagate, and the size of those holes actually help it to stay steady and upright. So I'm not too fussed. I can always fix it later if I think I need to. And there's the finished article. It looks much more professional, much neater, and much nicer. It is far more quiet after changing those pumps out, so I guess you could say my upgrade was a downgrade. And yeah, I'm really happy with it now. Really happy with it, in fact. It looks far neater than it did before, and I think the plants are going to be far more comfortable. I'll tell you another thing. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but the extra filtration has made a big difference to the tank as well. The water is like glass. It is absolutely crystal. I think that's largely due to the polishing pads that I've put in there. But yeah, it's just a really nice upgrade. I'm really happy that I did it now. Admittedly, I already had the sump that I ripped out from another tank, but you can use other things too. This is a part of a garden toy that the kids had. It was about to get discarded, but I'm going to keep that because I feel like I can make something out of it. I don't know if it's food grade plastic or even if it needs to be, but it looks like I could do something with it. I've seen people use shelves out of fridges, planter baskets, whatever. Like I said in the last video, loads of videos on YouTube showing you how to make sumps from what you can. And you don't need to integrate into the lid, of course. You can leave it sitting on the top, put it on a shelf above the aquarium or next to it. But hopefully it sparks some ideas anyway. The reason I started this whole project was somebody gave me a big tank with that sump section in it. I wasn't going to use the tank, but I could certainly put the sump to good use. This tank. Could certainly do with a little extra filtration. And once I figured out that I could get plants into there as well there was no looking back. Having plants on this tank are only going to improve the water quality. Not only that, they're going to improve the air quality in the house, and they look great too. Instead of a bare lid, I've now got living things growing out the top of it, which, I don't know, just makes me feel better, I guess. The idea of sharing it is not that I expect anybody to do the same or even similar as what I've done here, but maybe get you thinking a little bit, thinking about the possibilities of adding an overhead sump or an aquaponics system or a little bit of both, and where you can go with it. Give you a wee project to get into, spend some time tinkering with your tanks and enjoying your aquarium hobby. Right, I'm out. Later.